morning. Our hand today is going to be King Queen of Diamonds. In this hand, we have player limps. I isolate. We get a caller, and that limper calls. We'll start with this limper. He's playing 53-3. We have quite a bit of information. We have limp and call to raise stat. That includes queens, 8s to 9s. So basically, pocket pairs. You've got some suited broadways. It looks like suited aces. You've got suited queens, jack, like suited jacks down to like jack 6, jack 7. You're looking at 10-8 to 10-6, 9-4, 8-4. I mean, you can just see all of this. The offsuit hands, it looks like he's a little bit more selective on the offsuit hands. I think he's playing maybe one gappers, along with some high cards. And he's just a very wide range. And I think this hand, when he limps and it gets back to him, I don't think he's folding anything. So I'm putting together this big range here, 58%. I did have queens. I kind of assumed he would raise pre-flop with queens. I'm going to adjust that and say 50% of the times he would have done that, since he has a limp called with queens. Maybe he's just ace king, aces, kings, and ace king. Maybe those are the only big cards. So my ISO raise looks something like this in an early position. You can see the always versus optional. I think given how wide this player is, I think we just go ahead and make it larger, or make our range a little bit wider. I mean, yeah, it's going to be wider, but nowhere close to villain. So we're going to have an easier, stronger hand, stronger range of hands, fewer combos that'll have to be folded and so forth. So I just do always ISO. Not really thrilled with the size. I only did three big blinds. I may have missed the fact that he limped. I think typically I would have made it 5 big blinds, and that would apply to a bit more pressure. It's also possible that I'm at this table that seems to be a fairly loose table just all around. I mean, even myself, out of 23 hands, I've played 26%, 6 out of 23. Next person's 25% out of over almost 1,000 hands. So I think maybe it's just general loose table. Maybe not raise as large to build up as big a pot. So I think my raise is standard, and we do have a caller, 45-14. Over 177 hands. He is not 3-bet, so I'm going to make sure that I'm going to include kings plus ace king in like the calling range. We can see that overall he's played 45%. Early position, that's 47%. He has a lot of limp first in. He does raise first in, but I beat him to the raise. When we look at the called 2-bets, we're at 22%. It looks like he's maybe a little bit more reserved in his calls. So I don't think it's going to be as wide a range, but he's still going to have a fairly loose range. We do see the limp call ranges, so you do have some like offsuit aces and so forth. So I put this hand together a little bit tighter. It's at 23%. Guy had already raised. I'm representing some strength. I think he's going to be a little bit more reserved in the hands that he calls. So we go to a flop of king 10-2 with 2 spades. So villain checks. The pot's 10.5. It's on us. We have initiative. I think there's some draws that we can bet to balance our decent hands. So we're looking at flush draw, open enders, gut shots, and so forth. So that's at 24%. That means we would be having a value range to balance that. So like at 12%, that looks okay with like overpair plus, but I don't think it's wide enough. Villain's ranges are really big. So I think at top pair, we're going to have to include a top pair here to get value from the kings, because I kind of expect with the range hands, they're going to be calling with your gut shots are going to be calling with the middle pair. They're probably going to call with well, this guy more so. His full to c bet stats only like 50%. This guy's 55% maybe. He's in position. Folds a little bit higher. So I think this guy's probably anything that connects. He's probably going to call based on just with all of the hands. He's probably going to call. So I think we increase our value to top pair, and then we have to balance that. So I think we're going to look at like some of these low pocket pairs or these middle pairs. Probably just everything here. We're at 97%. I think this is just one of those situations where we're going to be c betting everything because the villain's ranges are much larger than us, especially that guy. So we're probably betting. It's GTO's probably mixed. I'd like to say this is kind of a half pot bet, maybe 2/3, maybe a third, because I don't see. I mean, 2/3 is nice. Get more money in the pot, and I think that's probably what I would do right now is bet 2/3 with our value hands, because I kind of expect to get called a little bit. I did half pot. This player folds, so that's again, we can kind of work it through and say, well, what's he gonna call with? I kind of think he would call with middle pair plus, a flush draw and open ender. You know, that's 50%. If we add the gut shot, that's 66%. So folding 40%. It's obviously he didn't connect, so we'll delete that. This other player, though, I think any pair, he's going to call with any pair, any flush draw, any open ender, gut shot, and so forth. We're looking at 50% there. I think that's his call. That's his calling range, which is we beat most of those hands. So we will continue. See that. All right, 9 of hearts. Open ender connects. It could be in my range, could be in villain's range. He checks. Question is are there any hands that he would lead? So we looked at the flop. Here, probe, donk, 10%. So there may be a hand that he bets here. I think given this, I think it would more likely to be a check raise. If he bets, I'm kind of giving him credit for at least a 2 pair. It just kind of depends on the sides. So it's on us now. I'm not. The 9 could improve our range. I think at this point, because we bet 98%, we're not going to be betting as frequently. You know, we will have hands that just can't continue. We miss. We don't improve. Our queen improves. We now have a gut shot. So I do think with our top pair, we're probably continuing to bet with at least our king, queen, king, jack. You can see that our value hand is like 42%, which means we're going to need to have some other draws here. So if we include all of our gut shots, we'd have to scale it back. Like ace queen, I think would be okay. King queen, we don't want to include. Like jack 10, we don't want to include. I think that's probably okay. And we don't want to include those 10s because we have a middle pair to go along with it. So these are just strictly value. I think with middle pair, we're probably just checking, you know, queens and jacks. We would have probably just checked for value. We wouldn't be bet for value. I think these are just bluffs. So that gets us to 78, and I think that's probably about right. We're still betting. We still think villain has a wider range. And at 20.9 big blinds, I think we're going at least half pot again. try to get more value from him. Now he has 50. If we go half pot, we're betting 10. He calls, that brings a 40. Pot to 40, he has 40. That's pot size bet on the river. So I check. I don't really like to check, not with our hand. I think part of this was I don't want to bet and get raised and then have to fold. But I don't really like that. Don't really like that bet. So we're gonna have to X these out. And say that those are the hands that we kind of check, which I think we would. And that means villain has everything in his range right now. So I think that check really just kind of made our hand a little bit weaker. 3 diamonds comes out. Villain bets 8, which is maybe about a third, a little more than a third pot. What does he do that with? Well, we've kind of showed weakness by checking, so I do think straights and sets and 2 pair probably. I think top pair probably does that, and he may actually try to do it with these pocket pair below the top card and the middle pair. Not sure, maybe the weak pair. Let's see what his probe stat is. 50%. He seems to be willing to do this, so it's possible that he pushes most of these hands. 50% would be middle pair plus. So we'll say that that's what he's doing. We're obviously not going to fold with our king hand, but of those hands that we check, we kind of have to ask, is it worth it to call? I don't think it's worth it to call the weak pair. Middle pair, maybe we call with like ace 10. Maybe we call with queen 10, because at this point, with that range, he's at 93% equity. If we call with ace 10, that's at 20%. We need 22% equity to call. At ace 10 only, we're at 22%, and that's just kind of cutting it close. So we could possibly fold. It just kind of depends. If we think he would always bet if we check the turn, then I think we can call. But in this case, based on his stats, I'd probably fold the ace, the 10s, these middle pairs. And you might say that's overly weak, but just thinking about the players, and this is a 10-0 game. I don't see the name. I've got a lot of hands with him. I think he probably has at least a pair, and our 10 isn't going to be that great. So getting back to our hand, king queen, this is not a hand that we're going to fold. We have it in our range. We've got top pair. We've got second kicker. Yeah, we're going to lose to a straight. We're going to lose to 2 pair. But I think there's many of these hands that villain's going to be betting that we beat. So including the vast majority of his top pair hands. So if we just exclude the king queens from his range, you're looking at, just do that, exclude the king queen because I think it's unlikely that he has that. So 63%, we beat 63% of the hands. The question is, if we raise, does he call with these, or does he only call with better hands? And I kind of feel like he would probably only call with better hands. Yeah, I think he would only call with better hands. I think the raise just looks very suspicious. Like maybe I did connect with the straight, and now I catch it, so I'm going to raise it. So I don't think a raise is really going to accomplish anything, but I do think we're going to have to call. So I did call. Villain shows king 8. Is that in his range? Yep, 100%. That's in his range. We saw it. It's kind of matches somewhat what we expected. Would he have these middle pair, pocket pair below, so like queens and jacks, or like 10 jack? I don't know. I'd like to think so, but who knows? So at this point, what do we think? What do we think of our play? I think we missed that barrel, the turn barrel. And I really think that's the key. So let's take some notes. He limped under the gun and called EP2s, 3 big bet, ISO, to ISO R, and overcall. Say overcall. ISO phase with king of clubs, 8 of hearts. He is out of position. Check call 50%. Check and then bet 8 out of 20, maybe 40%. Maybe it was 5 is 25%. I think it's 40%. At 40% on a king of spades, 10 of spades, 2 of diamonds, 9 of hearts, 3 of diamonds. All right, so I really think we missed the turn bet. Our bet sizing may be off a little bit. Bet sizing on the flop, we do have to remember that we have two opponents. It's not going to be heads up, so whatever GTO says, GTO is working heads up poker and not multi-way, so the half pot's probably okay. This could have been one that would be decent for a 2/3 pot bet, and then kind of scale back to a half pot bet on the turn. If we bet the turn and we get raised, I think we're probably folding unless we know the villain can do this as a bluff. And I'm not sure this villain can. I just think he's a little too passive. I think when he does raise, he bets because he's got major hands, and then he'll slow down on the turn. And that's going to be actually interesting. So he c-bets a lot. C-bets. And then on the river, I wish we had like c-bets win frequency to see it. Is he really doing this with big hands? But I do think he's got, when he comes in for a raise, he's going to have a pretty decent hands. And then I think when he bets and gets called, he slows down. That's my read, is that he kind of gets scared. And if he's playing it like that, then I have no reason to suspect that if he check raises me at any point in the hand, that he's doing it as a bluff. He has a big hand, so I think he check raises. It's a straight. If that river card's a spade, I think that straight's going to definitely freeze up. It'll be a check call. That's all he does. So I think we missed the bet. So we go back here. I think we bet. Could have gone about 7.5 or so. 7. So we go 7. He calls, and then I think we go half pot here. And he would call again, and then I think on the river, I think we go for a little bit more value. So we go for about a half pot, or maybe like a third or a quarter size pot bet to try to get that little extra one. And yeah, on the turn, I think the spades are going to be calling again, so we're going to get some value from them. We're getting value from all of the king X hands. So I think here we miss value. That's plain and simple. We need to continue to put pressure on these players when we have our top pair, and we need to try to get value from them. So hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another one.